Hi friends, I join you this morning with absolutely nothing on my skin. I'm going to be taking you through a foundation routine that I find to be so long wearing. I've been playing around and tweaking this for about the last 5 or 6 days, and on multiple occasions I feel like I've sweat through my makeup look, expecting it to be totally gone. But guys, one day even I sweat through the look 2 times, I thought, but it was still hanging around and there was still makeup to be removed at the end of the day. And not only that, but it looked good. Like, it's just kind of baffling, the staying power on this. So if staying power is a struggle for you, you may want to tune into this video. I can hear an owl hooting outside. Oh my gosh. I think they noticed when I turned on the light and now they're trying to communicate with me. Gotta start getting out more in. So we're gonna start from square one because I want you to know what I'm doing underneath this foundation. By the way, have I said the name of it? It's this new one from NARS. It is the Soft Matte Complete Foundation. And when they sent this, they sent several shades of this in a PR package. They also sent some of these concealers. I already had one actually, and I feel like I'm kind of playing with a little bit lighter shade as well. But that's the gist of the coverage for this video. I'll take you through that and also a couple of powders that I'm using, which I'm kind of surprised I'm using these particular powders, but I am and it's working, so we're going with it. But I would say I have normal to dry skin. However, in the heat and humidity, I do struggle with keeping everything looking perfectly flawless, especially in the T-zone. So it's kind of an interesting situation. Underneath something matte, you'd think, well, I need to hydrate pretty well, and I do. But at the same time, I need to be ready to really challenge this foundation if I'm outside, I'm taking walks with the girls, and I'm starting to sweat. So I feel what I'm doing with this foundation is allowing it to have a really fresh look, but also stand up to whatever I'm throwing at it throughout the day. So for starters, I'm going to use my e.l.f. Holy Hydration Face Cream. I sometimes bounce between my Bobbi Brown, or my ColourPop 4th Ray, but I believe on the day that this really impressed the crap out of me and I put the foundation through like its hardest test, I was wearing this underneath, and everything went really well. Love that cream. I'm going to pop on an eye cream. This is my 4th Ray from ColourPop, the Daily Eye Cream. Really nice under makeup eye cream. It feels deeply moisturizing without feeling terribly thick. Then I'm going to put on my SPF. Today it's the Drunk Elephant Umbra Tint. This is SPF 30 and I get this all around. This also has a decent amount of moisture in it as well. Once you get this blended in, you're like, ooh, I am really moisturized today. But I blend it in with a brush. This is the e.l.f. Ultimate Blending Brush because it does, like, my fingers will come away feeling a little bit sticky if I blend it in with my hands. But this is a product I'm going through. Like, I'm surprised I haven't used it up already, but I'm fairly close. I think it's the fact that I kind of stopped using it exclusively, and I'll sometimes use a couple of different ones from Supergoop, the Glow Screen or the matte one. So this one's had a little competition, but this is just a nice general sunscreen, I think. I'm putting things back where I got them. Try to not make so many messes around here, gang. We're doing it, we're doing it. I am gonna be using 2 brushes for my foundation and concealer. So the foundation's gonna get the Real Techniques Expert Face Brush. And I do give this a little shake, and I use it in the shade Patagonia Medium 1.2. And this is a squeezy foundation, which we don't see a whole lot. And something about the squeeze tube. Okay, does that mentally do something to you and make you think it's gonna be less coverage? Like if you had a squeeze tube foundation and then you had a glass bottle foundation, which one would you just expect has more coverage? Probably the glass bottle one, right? Because a lot of tinted moisturizer type things get packaged in a squeeze tube. So there immediately, like, I subconsciously thought this was not going to be nearly as much coverage as it was, and then bam, like crazy good coverage. So I squeeze out, not too much, it's a fine line, less than a pea-sized amount, like, I don't know, half of a decent sized pea, 3/4 of a pea. Oh my gosh, we're getting crazy. Then I dab it around all my regions, all my planes of the face, and then just buff it in with my Expert Face Brush. Look what I'm doing with the brush. Like, I'm kind of dabbing, patting over it like that. Especially those areas where I really want the coverage. I'm doing a dabbing motion. It's not setting too quickly on me. It's not being difficult. But just dab over those areas where you want the most coverage, and then you can kind of blend and buff over other parts. And a big claim on this foundation, which I don't know that I've ever seen a foundation really put this out very boldly in their claims, but they say basically that this won't color change, this won't oxidize throughout the day. It says discover natural looking matte coverage that resists oxidation and helps prevent your shade from shifting throughout the day with new soft matte complete foundation, 34 shades. And then of course they've got this concealer, which we'll use in a second, that is kind of in the same range. But you see what we're getting here? That coverage is beautiful. I mean, that's going over some stuff here. I did not feel incredibly even when I started putting this on, and now I just feel great. And you know, I've toyed with the amount that I've put on each time. I've definitely used more than this, but this was like a minimal amount of product put on here. There was no excess, and I still feel totally covered. Feel really good about the look on the skin. Now, granted, I don't feel like it's looking completely invisible on the skin, like I get all up on myself, and yeah, I can maybe see some makeup as you would. Lately, I've been using my Catrice HD Liquid Coverage, which is another great matte foundation that wears a long time. I would say this from NARS is a little more coverage than that, but the look is overall really pretty. And you know what they mean by soft matte? Like, I'm still seeing a little bit of a natural skin-like finish as I turn my head, you know? I'm not like completely blanked out matte. Now for these concealers. These have been out for a while, and it's like, was I not giving this enough attention? Because now, maybe it's just the pairing with the foundation. I'm loving it. Like, loving how even it's making everything. It's covering well, but it's also looking beautiful. Just a really even canvas, like blurred look on the under eye. It's been amazing. I've been checking it out in different lighting, different mirrors in the home, you know, where one can just make you look like, what? I didn't know it was doing that. I've really been paying attention to this stuff, and I've been so impressed. But like, I've had this concealer on hand for a while, and I just don't think I ever really tapped into its true goodness. Like, I think I thought, okay, it's fine, but I wasn't really like over the moon, and now something about using it with this foundation is just working. It's clicking. So I had the shade Canel, which is light 2.75, and I do feel like this is really good in terms of being a skin tone match. Why do I feel like I've got something on the tip of my nose? Like I was seeing something out of the corner of my eye. Frustrating. This is what really is a skin tone match, but then I started playing with light 2.5, which is creme brulee. Let me hold them up side by side. This is the lighter of the two. Just a little bit brighter, you know, just a bit. I've used each of them on their own. I've combined them. I'm not saying everybody has to have two shades, because it's obviously going to vary person to person, but since I have them both, I'm taking the Canel shade that's just a little bit deeper, and I'm going over like actual discoloration with that, and maybe just a little dab on the under eye. And I'll also use that around my redness too, around the nose. And not that a lot of this is standing out at all. Like, this concealer doesn't really have a ton of work to do because the foundation covered it so well. But then I go to this one for a little more of a brightening. The other day I used this and this alone, and I actually felt like that can kind of do it all, really. Like, if I had to only stick to one, I would probably just go with creme brulee, because they're not too far off, but this is just a little more brightening, and it can also manage to help with concealing. But you see what I'm doing there? I'm just kind of dabbing it really lightly, not a lot of product, dabbing that around, and it's just going to give a little more dimension and lightness to these areas. Then I just take this brush, this little highlighting duo brush from Real Techniques, and I dab it all in, pressing motion, really get into those inner corners. And I mean, just the perfected look of all this, it just blows my mind. Like, everything just looks kind of airbrushed, so to speak. Instead of looking like you got big creases and caverns and dips and stuff in the skin, it just looks so even. Sort of highlighted action down here toward the chin. Make sure it got everything really pressed in around the nose. But again, the staying power of this, it just blows my mind. I think I'm going to take it through an entire day today for you and just document. But there we go. I just think that coverage is gorgeous, and yet it still doesn't look like a caking mask, but it does feel matte. It does feel really perfected, and I'm loving that. Now, I will take you through what I've been doing powder-wise, and it's kind of crazy. I feel like I gave this powder a pretty hard time in my Catrice video, this Baking and Setting HD Loose Powder, because I really don't enjoy the way the packaging is. You take that top off, you take this stopper off, and by God, you've got to do that as slowly as you can so you don't get this flood of powder coming at you in a big old cloud all over your black leggings. But once you do that, I tap in, I get a little bit of this powder on my brush, and I swear, I'm kind of loving this topping off the concealer. It's so weightless. I can't explain, you guys. It just plays with this matte effect so well. This powder is very mattifying too. It's just like if you're building a team of matte long-wearing players, this one's like, yeah, put me in, coach. I can do that. I might have some flaws and nobody's perfect, but I can do the job on your face. That's kind of the way I'm feeling about this powder. So I just dab that all over the T-zone, and I gotta say, I've been using it every time I've been using this foundation and concealer, and I have had really good staying power. I'm not using a ton. I'm not baking with it. I'm just getting a light bit on my brush. I'm tapping off the excess, and then I'm patting it in. And then simply because it's just on hand, I also had that luminizing waterproof powder. A lot of people said when they saw me using this in my Catrice video that this seems like a dupe for that Urban Decay all-nighter pressed powder because it kind of has that same tone. None of us really know why they called this luminizing. It's just not. But I go ahead and I'm just buffing that in elsewhere on the face. And I do feel like I get really good staying power with this. Yes, I'm working up to that forehead zone where I know I'm gonna sweat. And guys, this just works for me. I love the look. I love how flawless it looks. It's gonna look even better as I add bronzer and blush and all those other steps, but I feel very locked in for the day. And if you can sweat through something, if you can sweat through something 2 times in a given day without touching up, and then you get to the end of your day, you give yourself a long, hard look in the mirror and you say, that actually looks good still. What? I just felt called to do a video on this, so I'm gonna finish up my face. I'll join you at the end for a little recap. Here is my finished face. I'll just share everything else that I put on. I've got on my Fenty Beauty bronzer. This is in the shade called Private Island. I hadn't used this one a whole lot. I've been reaching for my Hourglass one a ton or a few different palettes, so I just thought I'd throw that on there. I've got it on pretty lightly today. My blush and highlight are this e.l.f. duo in the shade Watermelon, and this has got to be one of my favorite ones. I feel like I've experimented enough to understand that this one I love so much. The blush is gorgeous. The highlight, it looks like it might be kind of a deeper highlight, but it's so like light and bright, but yet 0 particles of sparkle. It's just like pearly, and I think it's such a pretty highlight. So I love that duo. I also love the Spiced Apple one, which I kind of made the basis for a whole look. The video about easy ways to update your look, this was kind of the core of that. On my eyes, I'm wearing this iconic London. This is the Sunset to Sunrise eyeshadow palette. Looks like this. I've got a lot of this color in the crease, this on most of the lid, which it comes off as a very like metallic peachy shade. I've got some of Moonlit on the inner part of my lid, and what else? A little bit of this shade in the outer corner, kind of a dusty plummy color, just very, very lightly in the crease. And then on my lips, I'm wearing a combo of 2 Sigma lipsticks that you've heard me talk about before that I love. Mostly it's the shade called Temptation, which is a really nice dusty rose, and then I pop a little bit of the shade called Deja Vu, which I would call kind of like a deep nude. I've got that on the center part of the lower lip. So I'm really happy with this look. I think that highlight really helps a lot because I'm very matte, I'm very full coverage feeling, but yet things don't feel too heavy. I gotta say, you saw how minimal the amount of this foundation was that I used. You know, it would be easy to go overboard. It is a squeezy tube, but just watch yourself and make sure that you're not squeezing out way, way too much, because I do think a little goes a long way, but it maintains sort of a easy wearability, a flexibility, if you will. It doesn't feel like this thick layer on the skin. It doesn't set so quickly like that you can't keep up in blending. And like I've said several times, it can wear through pretty much anything I want to throw at it. So definitely checking a lot of boxes for me. Those powders from Catrice that I set everything with, it's just kind of funny that those happen to work work so well. I'm not saying you would have to use those and only those, you know, look at the powders that you already have in your collection. But in trying to make use of those, I realized just how nicely they were working for me, even though I don't love the packaging of that loose powder. But here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go throughout the day. I'm gonna set some alarms on my phone so I will remember to check in with you, and I'll show you how this goes all day. It is noon. I'm doing a little staying power check-in on the look so far. I really don't see any breakdown, and I haven't really put it through any major test so far. I was outside just a little bit this morning, felt the sweat start to come, and I'm like, no, we can't do this early. We'll probably be on some walks here shortly, and I'll check in again, but I feel like everything is holding strong without even a little bit of breakdown as far as the complexion stuff goes. That's what I'm really paying attention to. I know the lip color's gone. I just ate lunch. We'll check in again in a little bit. It's only about a half hour after I shot the last clip, but I'm fresh off of a walk in the noonday sun in super high heat right now, probably in the 90s. Girls just really like to go for walks. I thought it would drain them of a little of their energy, but that doesn't prove to be the case today. This is all freshly sweat on, and I just come in. I've been in for a couple of minutes. I don't know, the skin might even look better than it did first thing today. Like, it actually responds so well to the little bit of your skin's natural moisture that it puts out. Like, it doesn't look broken down, but it just looks a little more dewy than it did before.
Hi, we're just walking.
You're just walking. Yes, we are in the midst of a late afternoon walk. Yeah, I'm definitely sweaty. My forehead is wet to the touch.
A new fantastic point of view.
So here's where we're at after being outside and most definitely being in a full-on sweat mode. I do have wear down right around the side of the nose, okay? Kind of to be expected, but as far as actually breakdown in the overall coverage of the look, I still feel like I somehow have coverage. I've got a little bit of a smudginess right down in here. I don't know what that's about. I don't have any lower mascara on, but I've had this at times, and I don't know if it's somehow transferring from the upper, like just a little bit of a dingy look underneath the eye, even when nothing's actually there. So who knows about that? That's not the foundation's fault though, and I just wanted to show you guys what it really looks like fresh in from a sweaty walk. So we are looking at about 12 hours of wear now with this foundation. Still dealing with that pesky under eye smudge right now, but honestly, overall, everything is seeming so good. Like, I actually feel like there's foundation on the skin. I know there's a little breakdown around the sides of the nose, but I was getting so sweaty like around the forehead, and I can't believe still how good everything continues to look complexion-wise. So very, very impressed. I just really wanted to take you through a whole day and show you the experience I've been having with this stuff because it's been really good. So let me know your thoughts and any questions in the comments section, and I will see you guys again soon.